My brother convinced everyone I was the family screw-up until I bought the family business and fired him. Growing up in a house where everyone constantly compared me to my older brother felt like living in someone else's shadow every single day. He was the golden child who could do no wrong, while I was always the one who somehow managed to mess things up according to everyone around me. Every family gathering became a showcase of his achievements, while my accomplishments were either ignored or dismissed as luck. My parents owned a small manufacturing company that had been in our family for 3 generations, passed down from my great-grandfather, who started it with nothing but determination and calloused hands. The business manufactured custom metal components for various industries, and it had always been assumed that my brother would eventually take over since he was the older son and supposedly the responsible one. Throughout high school, I watched him charm teachers, coaches, and family friends with his smooth talking and apparent natural leadership abilities. He played varsity football, maintained decent grades, and always seemed to know exactly what to say in any situation. Meanwhile, I struggled with school, preferring to spend my time tinkering with machines and learning how things worked rather than focusing on academic subjects that felt pointless to me. The real damage started when I dropped out of college after 2 years because I couldn't handle the pressure and the constant feeling of being behind everyone else. My brother used this as ammunition to convince everyone that I was irresponsible and would never amount to anything meaningful. He told my parents that I lacked commitment and discipline, painting a picture of someone who gave up when things got tough. What nobody knew was that I had been quietly building my own small business on the side, fixing machinery and equipment for local shops and businesses. I started in my garage with basic tools and gradually expanded as word spread about my ability to solve problems that stumped other people. The work was challenging and rewarding, but I kept it mostly to myself because I didn't want to deal with the inevitable criticism from my family. My brother graduated college with a business degree and immediately joined the family company as a manager, despite having no real experience with the actual work involved. He spent most of his time in the office, creating presentations and attending meetings, while the skilled workers who actually understood the manufacturing process did the heavy lifting. He was great at talking to clients and presenting himself as competent, but he didn't really understand the technical side of the business. For years, I listened to family dinners, where everyone praised his contributions to the company, while treating me like the black sheep who couldn't get his life together. My parents would ask him about important business decisions and completely ignore my presence at the table. He would make subtle comments about how some people just weren't cut out for responsibility, always looking in my direction when he said things like that. The turning point came when my parents started talking about retirement and succession planning for the business. They had always assumed my brother would take over, but the company had been struggling financially for several years. Orders were declining, quality issues were increasing, and several longtime employees had quit because they were frustrated with management decisions that didn't make sense from a practical standpoint. I had been quietly observing the situation and noticed that many of the problems stemmed from outdated equipment and inefficient processes that nobody seemed interested in addressing. My brother was focused on marketing and customer relations, but he wasn't paying attention to the fundamental issues that were affecting production quality and efficiency. During this time, I had been growing my own business and had saved up a considerable amount of money over the years. I had also developed relationships with suppliers, equipment manufacturers, and skilled workers who respected my technical knowledge and problem-solving abilities. My client base had expanded beyond local businesses to include some larger companies that needed specialized manufacturing services. The breakthrough came when I realized that I could potentially acquire the family business myself, rather than watching it slowly decline under my brother's eventual leadership. I had enough capital saved up, plus I had established relationships with banks and investors who were familiar with my work and reputation in the industry. I spent months quietly preparing a business plan and financial proposal, working with lawyers and accountants to structure everything properly. I researched the company's financial situation, analyzed their client contracts, and identified specific areas where improvements could be made to increase profitability and efficiency. The hardest part was keeping everything secret while watching my brother continue to position himself as the obvious successor. He had started making changes to company policies and procedures, often without consulting the experienced workers who understood the practical implications of his decisions. Several longtime employees had approached me privately to express their concerns about the direction the company was heading. When I finally approached my parents with my proposal to buy the business, they were completely shocked and initially skeptical. They had never considered me as a potential successor because my brother had spent years convincing everyone that I was unreliable and lacked business sense. But my detailed business plan and financial backing forced them to take my offer seriously. The proposal included plans for upgrading equipment, streamlining processes, and expanding into new markets that I had already researched extensively. I had identified specific inefficiencies in the current operation and outlined how addressing these issues could significantly improve profitability within the first year of new ownership. My parents spent several weeks reviewing my proposal and consulting with their own advisors before agreeing to move forward with the sale. The process took months to complete, involving lawyers, accountants, and extensive due diligence on both sides. Throughout this entire period, my brother had no idea what was happening because everyone involved had signed confidentiality agreements. The day I officially became the new owner of the family business was one of the most satisfying moments of my entire life. I had spent years being dismissed and underestimated, but I had quietly built the knowledge, skills, and resources necessary to take control of my own destiny. My brother's reaction when he found out was a mixture of shock, anger, and disbelief. He had been so confident that the business would eventually be his that he had never considered the possibility of being bypassed entirely. He accused me of being sneaky and manipulative, conveniently forgetting all the years he had spent undermining my reputation and positioning himself as the only viable option. The first major decision I made as the new owner was to evaluate all existing management positions and restructure the organization based on actual performance and contribution to the company's success. This meant having some very difficult conversations with people who had been coasting on their positions without delivering real value. My brother fell into this category because while he was good at presenting himself well to clients and attending meetings, he hadn't actually contributed to solving any of the fundamental problems that were hurting the business. His lack of technical knowledge and understanding of the manufacturing process had become a liability rather than an asset. When I informed him that his position was being eliminated as part of the restructuring, he went through the typical stages of denial and anger that people experience when their world gets turned upside down. He threatened to sue, claimed that I was being vindictive, and tried to rally other family members to pressure me into changing my decision. But the numbers don't lie, and the business results spoke for themselves. Under his management, the company had been losing money and market share, while employee morale declined and quality issues increased. The decision to let him go was based on business necessity rather than personal revenge, though I admit there was some satisfaction in finally being able to make decisions based on merit rather than family politics. The transformation of the company over the following months was remarkable and exceeded even my own expectations. The new equipment I installed increased production efficiency by almost 40%, while significantly improving product quality. The process improvements I implemented reduced waste and shortened delivery times, which made our clients much happier and more likely to place repeat orders. Most importantly, the morale of the skilled workers improved dramatically once they realized that their expertise and input were valued and respected. Many of them had been frustrated for years by management decisions that ignored their practical knowledge and experience. Having someone in charge who actually understood the work and listened to their suggestions made a huge difference in their motivation and job satisfaction. Within 6 months, the company was profitable again and had started winning new contracts that we had been losing to competitors for years. Word spread in the industry about the improvements we had made, and several companies that had stopped doing business with us began reaching out to discuss potential partnerships and contracts. The most unexpected development was how quickly my reputation in the family changed once the business results became obvious. Relatives who had treated me like a failure for years suddenly wanted to know how I had managed to turn things around so quickly. The same people who had dismissed my abilities were now asking for my advice on their own business challenges. My parents, who had initially been hesitant about selling to me, became my biggest supporters as they watched the company they had built flourish under new leadership. They admitted that they had underestimated my capabilities and apologized for not recognizing my potential earlier. Their pride in what I had accomplished meant more to me than any financial success. The relationship with my brother remained complicated and strained for a long time after his termination. He struggled to find another position that matched his previous salary and status, partly because his skills were more suited to networking and presentation rather than actual business management. He eventually found work with another company, but it took him almost a year to secure a position that he considered acceptable. Family gatherings became awkward for a while because everyone was aware of the dramatic role reversal that had occurred. The person who had been dismissed as the family screw-up was now the successful business owner, while the former golden child was dealing with unemployment and damaged pride. The dynamics that had existed for decades had been completely overturned. Over time, my brother and I managed to rebuild a relationship based on mutual respect rather than the toxic competition that had defined our interactions for so many years. He eventually acknowledged that I had been right about many of the issues affecting the business and admitted that his own inexperience had contributed to the problems. This took considerable maturity on his part, and I respected him for being able to swallow his pride and admit his mistakes. The experience taught me valuable lessons about the importance of believing in yourself, even when everyone around you seems to doubt your abilities. It also demonstrated that quiet competence and steady preparation can be more powerful than flashy presentations and smooth talking when it comes to achieving real results. Running the business has been challenging in ways I never expected, but also incredibly rewarding. Every day brings new problems to solve and decisions to make, but I have the satisfaction of knowing that the success or failure depends on my own efforts and judgment rather than on what other people think about my potential. The financial success has been gratifying, but the personal satisfaction of proving wrong all the people who underestimated me has been even more meaningful. I built something significant through hard work and determination, and nobody can take that away from me or claim that it was just luck or circumstance. Looking back, I realized that being dismissed and underestimated actually worked to my advantage in some ways. It forced me to develop real skills and knowledge rather than relying on natural charisma or family connections. It also taught me to be self-reliant and to make decisions based on facts and analysis rather than on what other people expected or wanted to hear. The business continues to grow and evolve, and I have plans for expansion into new markets and product lines that could significantly increase our revenue and market share. But more importantly, I have created a workplace where people are valued for their contributions and where technical expertise and problem-solving abilities are recognized and rewarded. The story of how I went from being the family screw-up to owning the family business has become somewhat legendary in our community. People love hearing about the underdog who quietly built his capabilities and resources while everyone else was focused on appearances and politics. It serves as a reminder that success often comes to those who focus on substance rather than style. My advice to anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation is to concentrate on building real skills and knowledge rather than trying to change other people's perceptions. Focus on solving actual problems and creating value, and eventually the results will speak for themselves. The satisfaction of proving doubters wrong through achievement is far more lasting than any temporary validation from others.